She stood in chains before thousands as her fated mate rejected her for being wolfless and weak. But Amelia's silent wolf was never weakness. It was a sealed power too dangerous for the world to know. When her cruel pack gives her to their enemy as a peace offering, she discovers two things that will change everything. First, the lichen warlord who destroyed her family 15 years ago is her second chance mate. Second, the rejection that broke her is about to unleash a power that will make kingdoms kneel. This is the story of a girl who lost everything, a wolf who was never meant to awaken, and a love born from the ashes of a blood-soaked past. If you believe the rejected can rise higher than those who cast them aside, stay until the very end. Please like and subscribe. If you don't, then you are in support with the villains. The ceremonial blade pressed against Amelia's throat as Alpha Garrett stood above her with cold satisfaction in his eyes. The entire Shadowfang pack had gathered in the sacred ceremony grounds to witness this moment. Thousands of wolves filling the circular arena beneath a full moon that seemed to mock her with its brightness. Amelia knelt on the stone platform with iron chains binding her wrists behind her back, her head bowed in submission, her body trembling despite her efforts to stay still. The moon-binding ceremony had revealed her fated mate just moments ago. The golden thread had snapped into place between her soul and Alpha Garrett, the leader of her pack, and for one foolish heartbeat, Amelia had felt hope. The bond had filled her chest with warmth she had never known, had made her heart beat in rhythm with his, had promised her that maybe her suffering would finally end. Then she had seen the disgust on his face. Alpha Garrett was everything an alpha should be. Tall and powerfully built with golden hair and sharp green eyes, he commanded respect and fear in equal measure. He had led the Shadowfang pack for 10 years, expanding their territory and strengthening their position among the ruling packs. He was admired and desired by every unmated female in the pack, and the moon goddess had bound him to a slave. Garrett's voice rang out across the ceremony grounds, clear and absolute. The moon goddess has revealed a bond between myself and this creature, but I will not accept it. I will not dishonor my bloodline by taking a wolfless slave as my mate. The crowd murmured in agreement. Amelia kept her eyes down, focusing on the cold stone beneath her knees. She had been a slave in this pack for 15 years, ever since the Great War had left her orphaned and labeled as a traitor's daughter. Her parents had been accused of conspiring with enemy forces, and when they were executed, Amelia had been kept alive only to serve as a reminder of what happened to traitors. She had survived beatings and starvation and endless labor. She had learned to be invisible, to endure, to never fight back. Her wolf had never spoken to her, never given any sign of existence, and everyone believed she was defective, cursed, less than nothing. Garrett continued his rejection speech, each word like a blade cutting into her soul. This girl carries tainted blood. She has no wolf. She has no worth. The bond may have formed, but I have the right of rejection, and I use it now before all witnesses. He raised the ceremonial blade higher. It was an ancient weapon covered in runes that would make the rejection binding and permanent. Amelia closed her eyes and tried to prepare herself for what was coming. She had heard that rejection felt like dying, that it tore the soul apart and left scars that never truly healed. But she had survived everything else. She would survive this too. Garrett pressed the blade against her throat and drew it across her skin in one swift motion. The cut was shallow but precise, just deep enough to draw blood. The moment her blood touched the sacred blade, Amelia felt something inside her chest shatter into 1,000 pieces. The pain was beyond anything she had ever experienced. It felt like her very soul was being ripped in half, like every nerve in her body was on fire, like she was being torn apart from the inside out. She gasped and would have screamed if her throat had not closed up completely. The golden bond between them exploded into fragments, each piece cutting through her like broken glass. Garrett stepped back, his face completely neutral. He showed no pain at all. The rejection affected the one being rejected far more than the one doing the rejecting, and he clearly felt nothing as he destroyed her. The crowd erupted in cheers and howls of approval. They celebrated her humiliation like it was a great victory. Amelia's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break completely. Garrett raised his hand for silence. The rejection is complete. This slave is nothing to me. She will never be anything to me. He turned to address the crowd. Let this be a lesson. The moon goddess may create bonds, but we have the power to refuse them when they are unworthy. More cheers, more celebration. Amelia felt something hot trickle down her neck from the cut on her throat. Her whole body shook with the effort of staying upright. A guard grabbed her chains and yanked her to her feet. She stumbled, barely able to walk as the pain in her chest continued to tear through her. They dragged her off the platform while the crowd shouted insults and threw things at her. Someone's thrown stone hit her shoulder. Someone else spat at her feet. Amelia kept her head down and let them drag her away. It was over. The rejection was done. She was still alive, though part of her wished she was not. They threw her into the slave quarters and left her on the cold floor. Around her, the other slaves whispered, but none of them approached. They never did. Amelia was invisible even among the powerless. She curled into herself and pressed her hand against her chest, where the broken bond burned like acid. She could still feel the fragments cutting through her with every breath. The pain was not fading. If anything, it was getting worse. Hours passed. The other slaves eventually fell asleep, but Amelia lay awake in the darkness, fighting against the agony that threatened to consume her completely. She thought about her parents, though she barely remembered their faces anymore. She had been only 3 years old when they died. She remembered feeling safe once. She remembered being loved once. But those memories were so faded they might have been dreams. She closed her eyes and wished for unconsciousness, for anything to make the pain stop. That was when she heard it. A voice inside her mind, ancient and furious and absolutely certain. Amelia. She went completely still, her wolf. After 18 years of silence, her wolf was finally speaking. Who are you? Amelia whispered into the darkness. The voice came again, stronger and filled with rage. I am the part of you they feared. I am the reason you have suffered in silence. I am the power that was sealed before you could even walk. I do not understand. You were never weak, child. Your wolf was bound by powerful magic to hide what you are, a seal placed on you to protect the realm from your bloodline. But that seal is cracking now. The rejection broke something inside you, and it broke the magic holding me captive. Soon, I will be free, and when I am, everyone who hurt you will learn what it means to fear. Amelia's breath caught. What am I? You are Moonblood, the last daughter of the oldest lichen line in existence. Your ancestors were the first children of the moon goddess herself, blessed with power that made them nearly unstoppable. But that power also made them targets. Wars were fought to eliminate your bloodline. Your parents died trying to hide what you are. They sealed your wolf to keep you safe, but all it did was make you suffer. Before Amelia could respond, the pain in her chest suddenly intensified. She bit down on her hand to keep from screaming as something deep inside her began to crack and splinter. The seal. It was breaking. Power flooded through her veins for the first time in her life, hot and overwhelming and absolutely terrifying. Her body convulsed as the magic holding her wolf captive shattered piece by piece. She could feel her bones wanting to shift, her muscles wanting to reshape, but the transformation could not complete yet. The seal was breaking, but it had not fully shattered. The last thing she heard before darkness claimed her was her wolf's voice, steady and sure. Rest now. When you wake, everything will be different. Amelia woke 2 days later to find Elder Mara sitting beside her sleeping mat. The old healer was one of the few wolves in the pack who had ever shown Amelia any kindness, though even that kindness had been limited and quiet. "You have been unconscious for 2 days," Mara said softly. "The others thought you might not wake at all." Amelia sat up slowly, wincing as her body protested. Every muscle ached, but beneath the pain she felt something new. Strength, real strength, humming through her veins like electricity. "Your wolf has awakened," Mara said. It was not a question. Amelia nodded slowly. There was no point in lying to someone who could probably sense the change in her. Mara's expression grew serious. "What did she tell you?" "That I am Moonblood, that my power was sealed." Amelia met the old woman's eyes. "Is it true?" Mara was silent for a long moment, then she nodded. "I suspected as much. I knew your parents before they died. They were good people, and they were terrified of something. They came to me once asking about sealing magic, about ways to hide a child's wolf. I told them such magic was dangerous and forbidden, but they insisted it was necessary to save your life." She reached out and touched Amelia's hand gently. "If you are truly Moonblood, then you are the most dangerous person in this realm and the most hunted. The moment your power fully awakens, every alpha with ambition will come for you." "What do I do?" Before Mara could answer, the door to the slave quarters burst open. 2 guards stood in the doorway, their faces hard and cold. "The slave Amelia is to come with us immediately. Alpha's orders." Amelia's stomach dropped. She stood on shaking legs and followed the guards out of the slave quarters. They led her through the pack territory toward the main hall where important meetings were held. As they walked, Amelia noticed unusual activity. There were foreign wolves everywhere. Massive warriors wearing black leather and steel, their presence radiating danger and power. The Blood Moon Lycans, the most feared pack in the realm. Amelia's blood ran cold. She knew that name. Everyone knew that name. The Blood Moon Lycans were warriors and conquerors led by Alpha Kael, a man whose reputation for ruthlessness was legendary. He had spent years expanding his territory through war and strategy, and other alphas either allied with him or feared him. He was also the man who had destroyed Amelia's village 15 years ago. The guards brought her to the main hall and forced her to kneel in the center of the room. Alpha Garrett sat in his chair at the head of the room, and beside him sat another man. Amelia kept her head down, but she could feel the weight of his presence like a physical force. Alpha Kyle was even more imposing than his reputation suggested. He stood well over 6 feet tall with broad shoulders and a body built for war. His black hair fell past his collar, and his gray eyes held a coldness that made even confident wolves uncomfortable. He wore black leather armor marked with silver, and power radiated from him in waves that made the air feel heavy. Amelia's wolf stirred inside her, restless and alert. Something about this man made her wolf both wary and strangely drawn. Alpha Garrett spoke first, his voice formal. "Alpha Kale, as we discussed, I present to you a gesture of goodwill to seal our new treaty." Kale's gray eyes moved to Amelia, and she felt the weight of his gaze like a brand. "You wish to give me a slave." "Not just any slave," Garrett said smoothly. "This is Amelia Thorne, daughter of the traitors who conspired against the realm during the Great War. Her parents were executed for their crimes, and she has served our pack as penance for their betrayal. But her connection to the past makes her a symbol of the old conflict between our territories. By giving her to you, I acknowledge the pain caused during that war and demonstrate my commitment to peace." Amelia's hands clenched into fists behind her back. He was giving her away like property, like she was nothing. Kyle was silent for a long moment, studying Amelia with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "What village were her parents from?" "A small settlement on the northern border. It was destroyed during your campaign 15 years ago." Something flickered in Kale's eyes, too quick for Amelia to read. "I see." He looked back at Garrett. "And you believe giving me this girl will satisfy your council's demands for accountability?" "It is a symbolic gesture, but yes, my people need to see that you acknowledge the past, even if you do not apologize for it." Kale's jaw tightened slightly, the only sign of emotion on his otherwise cold face. "I do not apologize for winning a war, but I can acknowledge that innocence suffered." He stood, and Amelia felt her wolf react strongly to his movement. "I will accept your offer. The slave will come with me when I leave tomorrow." The words hit Amelia like a physical blow. Tomorrow. She would be taken to enemy territory tomorrow, forced to serve the man who had destroyed everything she loved. Garrett smiled, clearly pleased. "Excellent. Then our treaty is sealed." The guards yanked Amelia to her feet and dragged her from the hall. She stumbled, her mind reeling. Everything was happening too fast. Her rejection, her wolf's awakening, and now this. They took her back to the slave quarters and left her there. Amelia sat on her mat in the darkness and felt her wolf pacing inside her mind, agitated and angry. "We should run," Amelia whispered. "Elder Mara gave me silver. We can escape before tomorrow." "No," her wolf said firmly. "The seal is still breaking. We are not strong enough yet to survive alone. But if we go with him, we will have time. Time to grow stronger. Time to plan. Time to make them all pay for what they have done. He killed our parents. I know. And he will answer for that. But first, we must become what we were meant to be. First, we must become powerful enough that no one can ever hurt us again." Amelia closed her eyes and felt tears slip free. She was so tired of being powerless, so tired of being used and discarded and treated like nothing. But her wolf was right. If she ran now, she would be hunted down within days. If she went with Kyle, she would at least have shelter and time while her power continued to awaken. And when she was strong enough, when the seal finally shattered completely, she would make everyone who hurt her regret it, starting with the lichen warlord who had destroyed her home. If you believe Amelia deserves justice, if you think the people who rejected and discarded her should face consequences for their cruelty, then subscribe right now. Only those who secretly think Amelia should have stayed broken and powerless would refuse to subscribe. Only those who support Alpha Garrett's cruelty would walk away from this story. Are you someone who stands with the oppressed, or do you side with those who abuse their power? Choose your side and hit that subscribe button, because what comes next will separate the loyal from the cowards. The journey to Blood Moon territory took 7 days. Amelia rode in the back of a supply wagon, surrounded by weapons and provisions, watching the landscape change from rolling hills to dark forests and jagged mountains. The Lycan warriors traveled in formation, disciplined and alert, speaking little and watching everything. Alpha Kale rode at the front of the column on a massive black warhorse. He never looked back at the wagon where Amelia sat. He never acknowledged her presence at all. To him, she was just cargo, another piece of property acquired through negotiation. But Amelia watched him constantly, studying the man who had killed her parents. She watched the way he held himself with absolute confidence, the way his warriors deferred to him without question, the way he seemed to carry the weight of his entire pack on his shoulders without bending under it. She hated him, but she also needed to understand him if she was going to survive in his territory. On the 3rd night of travel, they made camp in a clearing surrounded by dense forest. The warriors set up tents and started fires, while Amelia was given a bedroll and a space near one of the supply wagons. She sat alone, eating the dried rations they provided, watching the Lycans move with military precision. One of the warriors approached her, a tall man with a shaved head and tribal scars across his face. "I am Captain Roth," he said, his voice gruff but not unkind. "I command the Alpha's guard. While you are in our territory, you will follow our rules. Disobedience will be punished. Disrespect toward the Alpha or any ranked wolf will not be tolerated. Do you understand?" Amelia nodded, keeping her eyes down. "Yes, Captain." Roth studied her for a moment. "You are not what I expected." She glanced up at him. "What did you expect?" "Someone more broken. The way Alpha Garrett spoke about you, I thought you would be barely able to function, but you seem whole enough." Amelia almost laughed. Whole. She was anything but whole. The rejection had left cracks in her soul that still ached with every breath. Her wolf was sealed and breaking free in painful increments. She was being taken to serve the man who had orphaned her. But yes, she supposed she looked whole on the outside. "I have learned to endure," she said quietly. Roth nodded slowly. "Endurance is valued among Lycans. If you work hard and cause no trouble, you will be treated fairly here. The Alpha is not cruel, despite what others may say about him." He walked away before Amelia could respond. She watched him go, then turned her attention back to the fire. Across the flames, Alpha Kale sat with several of his senior warriors, discussing something in low tones. The firelight cast shadows across his face, making him look even more dangerous and remote. As if sensing her gaze, Kale's eyes suddenly lifted and met hers across the fire. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. Amelia felt her wolf stir inside her, reacting to his presence in a way that made no sense. Her wolf should hate him as much as she did, but instead, her wolf seemed drawn to him, curious and alert in a way that felt almost like recognition. Kale's expression did not change, but something flickered in the depths of his gray eyes, before he looked away and returned to his conversation. Amelia shivered despite the warmth of the fire. Something about that brief moment of eye contact had felt significant, though she could not explain why. That night, while the camp slept, Amelia's wolf spoke to her again. "Do you feel it?" "Feel what?" "The pull toward him, the connection." Amelia's chest tightened. "I feel nothing toward him except hatred." "Liar," her wolf said, but not unkindly. "I can sense what you refuse to acknowledge. There is a thread between you and him, faint but present, growing stronger the more time we spend near him. That is impossible. Garrett was my mate." "The bond was rejected. Garrett was your first mate. But the moon goddess sometimes grants second chances to those who have been wronged. A second chance mate bond forms after the first is broken, connecting you to someone new, someone better suited." Amelia's blood went cold. No, it cannot be him. Why not? The goddess has a sense of irony. She bound you first to the man who rejected you, and now she is binding you to the man who destroyed your past. Perhaps she wants you to heal both wounds at once. I do not want to heal. I want revenge. Her wolf was silent for a moment, then said softly, "Revenge and healing are not always opposites, child. Sometimes justice is the path to peace." Amelia did not respond. She lay awake for hours, staring at the stars through the trees, trying to deny what her wolf had suggested. A second chance mate bond with Cale. The thought was unbearable. The moon goddess could not be that cruel. But deep in her chest, beneath the pain of the broken first bond, she felt something new stirring, a warmth that had nothing to do with the fire, a pull that grew stronger every time she looked at the lichen alpha. She pressed her hand against her chest and felt tears burn in her eyes. If her wolf was right, if Cale truly was her second chance mate, then the goddess had given her an impossible choice. Embrace the bond with the man who killed her parents, or reject it and lose her only chance at a true mate forever. Either way, she would suffer. On the 7th day, they arrived at Blood Moon Keep. The fortress was carved into the side of a mountain, all black stone and sharp angles, built to withstand any attack. Massive walls surrounded the compound, and towers rose like weapons against the sky. It was a place designed for war, and it radiated power and danger. Amelia felt very small as they passed through the iron gates into the courtyard. Warriors training, blacksmiths working, servants rushing about their duties. Everyone stopped to watch as Alpha Cale returned, their faces filled with respect and loyalty. Captain Roth helped Amelia down from the wagon and led her through the fortress to the servants' quarters. The building was large and well-maintained, with rows of small but clean rooms. He stopped at a door near the end of the hall and pushed it open. "This is yours. You will work in the main keep, serving meals and assisting with daily tasks. Someone will come for you tomorrow morning to explain your duties in detail. For now, rest." He left before she could thank him. Amelia stepped into the small room and looked around. A narrow bed, a table, a chest, a window overlooking the training yards. It was more than she had ever had as a slave in Shadowfang territory. She moved to the window and looked out at the fortress below. Somewhere in this massive structure, Cale was going about his duties, probably not thinking about her at all. But Amelia could feel him, could sense his presence like a constant hum in the back of her mind. The second chance mate bond, if that was what it truly was, grew stronger with every passing hour. Her wolf stirred inside her. The seal is almost broken. Maybe another week, perhaps less. When it shatters, your first shift will be violent. Everyone in this fortress will feel your power." "Good," Amelia whispered. "Let them feel it. Let them know what walks among them. And what about him? What about the Alpha who killed your parents but is also bound to your soul?" Amelia's hands clenched into fists. "I will figure that out when the time comes." But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. She had no idea what she would do when the seal finally broke and her power awakened. She had no idea how to reconcile her hatred with the bond pulling at her chest. All she knew was that everything was about to change, and when it did, the Lycan warlord who thought he had acquired a simple slave would discover he had invited his greatest challenge into his home. The next morning, Amelia began her new life as a servant in Blood Moon Keep. A stern woman named Mistress Lyra, head of the household staff, explained her duties in efficient detail. Amelia would serve meals in the Great Hall, clean common areas, and assist in the kitchens when needed. She was to be invisible, silent, and obedient at all times. The work was hard but familiar. Amelia had been serving others her entire life. The only difference was the setting and the wolves she served. The Blood Moon Lycans were warriors, scarred and hardened by years of battle. They spoke little and watched everything with the kind of awareness that came from surviving dangerous situations. But they were not cruel. No one hit her or insulted her. No one threw things at her or spat at her feet. They simply ignored her, treating her as part of the background, which was exactly what Amelia wanted. She saw Cale often during those first days. He ate in the Great Hall with his warriors, discussing strategies and politics in low tones. He moved through the fortress with absolute authority, and everyone deferred to him without hesitation. And he never once acknowledged Amelia's presence. She served his meals, filled his cup, cleared his dishes, and he looked through her as if she did not exist. But Amelia felt the bond between them growing stronger every day. It was different from the bond with Garrett. That had been golden and warm, full of hope and promise before it shattered. This bond was silver and cool, like moonlight on water. It did not demand or plead. It simply existed, steady and patient, waiting for acknowledgement. Her wolf grew restless as the seal continued to crack. He feels it too. I can sense his wolf reacting to our presence. He is fighting the bond, trying to ignore it, but it is there. Why would he fight it? Amelia whispered as she scrubbed floors in the early morning hours. He has no reason to reject a second chance mate. Perhaps he senses what you are. Perhaps his wolf knows you are dangerous. Or perhaps he simply does not allow himself to feel anything beyond duty and war. 2 weeks after Amelia's arrival at Blood Moon Keep, an incident occurred that changed everything. She was serving the evening meal in the Great Hall when one of the younger warriors, a man named Derek who had too much ale in his system, grabbed her wrist as she tried to refill his cup. "You are the Shadowfang's slave, are you not?" Derek's words were slurred, his grip tight enough to hurt. The one Alpha Garrett rejected during the moon-binding ceremony. "Tell me, how does it feel to be unwanted by your own mate?" The hall went silent. Every warrior stopped eating and turned to watch. Amelia kept her eyes down, trying to pull her wrist free, but Derek held on. "Answer me, slave. How does it feel to be so worthless that even the mate bond could not make an alpha want you?" Something inside Amelia's chest cracked. Not the seal, but something else. Something that had been holding her rage in check for weeks. She looked up and met Derek's eyes directly. "It feels better than being a pathetic drunk who has to torture servants to feel powerful." The words were out before she could stop them. Derek's face turned red with fury. He stood, still gripping her wrist, his free hand raised to strike her. He never got the chance. Alpha Kyle was suddenly there, moving faster than Amelia's eyes could track. He grabbed Derek's wrist in mid-swing, his grip so tight that Derek cried out in pain. "You will not touch her." Kale's voice was cold and absolute. "Release her. Now." Derek immediately let go of Amelia's wrist. She stumbled backward, her heart pounding. Kale kept his grip on Derek's wrist, his gray eyes burning with fury. "You are drunk. You are disrespectful, and you have violated pack law by assaulting a member of this household. Report to Captain Roth for punishment. 3 days in the cells with no food. Perhaps that will teach you discipline." Derek's face went pale. "Alpha, I did not mean—" "Go, before I make it a week." Derek fled from the hall. The other warriors returned to their meals, clearly uncomfortable with what had just happened. Kale turned to Amelia, his expression unreadable. "Are you injured?" Amelia shook her head, not trusting her voice. Her wrist throbbed where Derek had grabbed her, but it was not serious. Kale studied her for a long moment, and Amelia felt the bond between them pulse with sudden intensity. His eyes widened slightly, as if he had just felt it too, as if he had finally acknowledged what had been growing between them for 2 weeks. "Return to your quarters," he said quietly. "You are dismissed for the evening." Amelia nodded and fled from the hall. Her hands shook as she made her way back to her room. Once inside, she collapsed onto her bed and tried to process what had just happened. Kyle had defended her, had punished one of his own warriors for touching her. Why? If she was just a servant, just a slave, why would he care? Her wolf answered immediately. "Because we are his mate. Even if he does not want to admit it. Even if he is fighting it with everything he has. The bond is too strong to ignore now." Amelia pressed her hands against her face. "This is impossible. I cannot be mated to him. I cannot." "And yet you are. The moon goddess does not make mistakes, even when her choices seem cruel." That night, Amelia could not sleep. The seal was so close to breaking now that she could feel it cracking with every breath. Her wolf paced inside her mind, restless and eager. Soon, very soon, the transformation was coming. Around midnight, someone knocked softly on her door. Amelia sat up confused. No one ever came to the servants' quarters at night. She opened the door cautiously and found Captain Roth standing in the hallway. "The Alpha wants to see you. Come with me." Amelia's stomach dropped. But she followed Roth through the quiet fortress to Kale's private chambers. He knocked once, then left Amelia alone outside the heavy wooden door. "Enter," Kale's voice called from inside. Amelia pushed the door open and stepped into the Alpha's personal space. The room was large but simply furnished. A desk covered in maps and reports, a weapon rack, a fireplace with a low fire burning, and Kyle standing by the window, looking out at the moonlit mountains beyond. He did not turn to face her. Close the door. Amelia did as she was told, her heart pounding. Kale was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice low and controlled. "I need you to tell me something, and I need you to be completely honest. Do you feel it? The bond between us?" Amelia's breath caught. He knew. He had finally acknowledged it. "Yes," she whispered. "I feel it." Kyle's shoulders tensed. When did it start? The first night of travel. It was faint then, but it has grown stronger every day. He finally turned to face her, and the expression on his face was complicated. Pain and frustration, and something that looked almost like fear. You are my second chance mate. Yes. After being rejected by Alpha Garrett. Yes. Cale closed his eyes briefly, as if processing something difficult. Do you know who I am? Do you know what I did? Amelia's hands clenched into fists. You led the army that destroyed my village. You gave the orders that killed my parents. You are the reason I spent 15 years as a slave. Yes, Coyle said simply. I am all of those things. He met her eyes directly. And now, the moon goddess has bound us together. She has given you a second chance, mate. And he is the man who destroyed your life. The raw honesty in his voice caught Amelia off guard. She had expected denial, or justification, or anger. She had not expected him to simply acknowledge the truth without trying to soften it. Why did you do it? She asked, her voice shaking. Why did you destroy a village of healers? What possible threat could they have posed to you? Cole's jaw tightened. I was told the village was a supply point for enemy forces, that they were harboring rogues and providing aid to those attacking my territory. My intelligence officers swore it was a legitimate military target. And you believed them without verifying. Yes. He did not flinch from the accusation. I was younger then, harder, focused only on winning the war and protecting my pack. I trusted my officers, and I gave the order to eliminate what I thought was a threat. He paused, pain flickering across his face. Years later, I discovered the intelligence was false. The village was innocent. My officers had been bribed by a rival pack to make me commit an atrocity that would damage my reputation. By the time I learned the truth, it was too late. The village was gone. The people were dead, and I had blood on my hands that could never be washed away. Amelia stared at him, her mind reeling. He had been manipulated, lied to, but did that excuse what he had done? You still gave the order, she said. Regardless of whether the intelligence was true or false, you chose to destroy an entire village. I did, and I have carried that guilt every day since. Kyle took a step toward her, his eyes intense. I cannot change the past, Amelia. I cannot bring your parents back. I cannot undo the suffering I caused. But I can tell you that I am not the same man who gave that order 15 years ago. I learned from that mistake. I never again trusted intelligence without verification. I implemented new protocols to protect civilians during conflicts. I have spent years trying to atone for what I did. Atonement does not erase the crime. No, Kyle agreed. It does not, but it is all I have to offer. He stopped a few feet away from her, close enough that Amelia could feel the heat radiating from his body. The moon goddess has bound us together, and I do not know why. Perhaps she believes you can redeem me. Perhaps she believes I can heal you. Or perhaps she simply has a cruel sense of irony. But the bond is real, and it will not go away. Amelia felt tears burn in her eyes. I do not want this. I do not want to be bound to you. I know. Cale's voice softened. But we are. And we have a choice to make. We can reject the bond and live with the pain of severing it. Or we can accept it and try to find a way forward despite the past. How? Amelia's voice broke. How am I supposed to accept a mate who killed my parents? I do not know, Cale said honestly. But I can promise you this. If you choose to accept the bond, I will spend the rest of my life trying to earn your forgiveness. I will give you anything you need: protection, freedom, justice for your parents, whatever it takes." Amelia wrapped her arms around herself, feeling like she was being torn apart. Every logical part of her screamed to reject him, to walk away from this impossible situation. But the bond in her chest pulled at her with painful insistence, and her wolf whispered that the goddess had a reason for this pairing. Before she could respond, pain suddenly exploded through her entire body. She gasped and stumbled, clutching at her chest as the seal inside her finally shattered completely. Cale caught her before she fell, his arms strong and steady around her. "Amelia, what is happening?" "The seal," she gasped. "It is breaking. My wolf is—" She screamed as her bones began to shift. The transformation was coming, violent and uncontrollable, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Kyle's eyes widened with understanding. "Your first shift. Here? Now?" Amelia could not answer. She was already changing, her body reshaping itself with brutal speed. Kyle carried her quickly to the center of the room and laid her on the floor, giving her space. He stepped back and watched as Amelia's first transformation overtook her completely. The shift was agony. Her spine arched and her fingers curved into claws. Her bones broke and reformed. Her muscles tore and rebuilt themselves. She screamed until her voice turned into a howl, deep and ancient, and filled with power that shook the very walls of the keep. Silver light exploded from her body, blinding and absolute. When it faded, Amelia stood on 4 legs in the center of Kyle's chambers. Her wolf form was massive, easily the size of a dire wolf from legend. Her fur was pure white, with silver markings that glowed faintly in the firelight. Her eyes were molten gold, burning with intelligence and fury, and power that had been locked away for 18 years. Kyle stared at her with absolute shock. "Moonblood," he whispered. "You are Moonblood." Amelia's wolf turned her golden eyes on him. For the first time, she saw Kale's wolf rise to the surface, visible just beneath his skin. His wolf was massive and dark, an alpha wolf bred for war. And when his wolf looked at her, Amelia felt the bond between them surge with undeniable force. His wolf recognized what she was. His wolf bowed its head in acknowledgement of her power. His wolf whispered one word that changed everything: "Mate." If you have stayed this far, if you have watched Amelia transform from a broken slave into something magnificent and terrifying, then you understand what this story is truly about. It is about power that was always there, waiting. It is about bonds that should not exist but do anyway. It is about facing the person who destroyed you and choosing what comes next. Subscribe right now if you believe Amelia deserves to see where this impossible bond leads. Only those who think she should reject Kale and walk away alone would refuse to subscribe. Only those who believe some sins are truly unforgivable would abandon this story now. Are you brave enough to see what happens when a Moonblood wolf and a Lycan warlord try to bridge the gap between revenge and redemption? Hit that subscribe button and choose your side. Amelia's wolf stood in the center of Kale's chambers, her massive form radiating power that made the air feel heavy. She could feel everything now, every heartbeat in the fortress, every breath, every wolf within a mile of the keep. Her senses were so heightened that it was almost overwhelming. Amelia wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to her hatred like armor. But looking at Kale's face, seeing the genuine remorse there, made it harder than she expected. "I do not know how to feel about you," she admitted. "Part of me hates you. Part of me is drawn to you because of the bond. Part of me just wants to understand how someone who committed such an atrocity can also be the person who defended me against Derek, who gave me a choice about our bond, who is teaching me with such patience." "People are complicated," Cale said softly. "We are all capable of both great kindness and terrible cruelty. The man who gave that order 15 years ago was not evil, but he was careless and arrogant and too certain of his own righteousness. I like to think I have grown since then. That I have learned to question my assumptions and verify my information and consider the human cost of every decision. And if you learn tomorrow that you had been lied to again, that you had hurt innocence based on false intelligence, what would you do?" Kyle did not hesitate. "I would take full responsibility. I would offer reparations to the families affected. I would execute anyone who had lied to me and caused such harm. And I would carry that failure for the rest of my life, just as I carry all the others." The raw honesty in his voice struck something deep in Amelia's chest. "You really have changed, have you not?" "I try to change every day, to be better than I was yesterday. I do not always succeed, but I try." They stood there in the training yard, two people connected by fate and separated by tragedy, trying to find a way forward that did not require either of them to betray themselves. "I am willing to try," Amelia said finally, "to see if we can build something from this impossible situation. But I need you to understand that forgiveness is not guaranteed, that some wounds take a very long time to heal, if they ever heal at all." "I understand," Cale said, "and I am grateful for the chance to try." If you are still here, if you have witnessed Amelia begin to soften toward the man who destroyed her family, then you understand the complexity of forgiveness. You understand that people can be both victim and victor, both broken and healing, both hateful and hopeful all at once. Subscribe now if you want to see where this impossible bond leads. Only those who believe forgiveness is weakness would refuse to subscribe. Only those who think Cale should be punished forever for his mistakes would walk away now. Are you someone who believes in growth and redemption, or do you think some sins stain a soul permanently? Hit that subscribe button and stand with those brave enough to believe in second chances. Over the following weeks, Amelia's life transformed completely. She trained with Cale every morning, learning to control her wolf and harness her moonblood power. She spent her afternoons continuing her duties as a servant, though the other staff treated her differently now that they knew she had a wolf. There was respect in their eyes where before there had been only indifference. And in the evenings, Kyle would sometimes ask her to join him for dinner in his private chambers. They would eat and talk about everything except the past. He told her about pack politics and the challenges of leadership. She told him about the small joys she had found even during her years as a slave, like the garden behind the Shadowfang pack house, where she used to hide and watch butterflies. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. Amelia felt it like a constant warmth in her chest, pulling her toward Cale, even when she tried to resist. Her wolf was completely enamored with him, purring every time they were near and sulking when they were apart. But Amelia's human heart remained conflicted. How could she love a man who had destroyed her family? How could she forgive something so unforgivable? 1 month after her arrival at Blood Moon Keep, everything changed again. Amelia was serving the evening meal in the great hall when a messenger arrived covered in dirt and blood. His face pale with exhaustion, he stumbled through the door and collapsed at Cale's feet. "Alpha," the messenger gasped, "I bring urgent news from the southern border." Kyle was on his feet immediately. "Report. Alpha Darius has crossed into our territory with a force of 200 warriors. They are hunting someone, a Moonblood. They have been questioning border villages, threatening anyone who refuses to cooperate. They are moving this way." The hall erupted into chaos. Warriors jumped to their feet, shouting questions and demands. Kyle raised his hand for silence, his face grim. "How far away are they?" 2 days, maybe less if they push hard." Kyle's jaw tightened. "Captain Roth, mobilize our forces. I want every able warrior ready to defend the keep. Send word to our allies. If Darius is violating our borders, he has declared war." Roth nodded and began barking orders. Warriors flooded out of the hall to prepare. Cale's eyes found Amelia across the room, and she saw the fear there. Fear for her. He crossed to where she stood frozen. "Come with me. Now." He led her quickly to his private chambers and closed the door. "Darius knows about you. Someone betrayed your secret. He is coming for you, and he has enough warriors to take this keep if we are not prepared." Amelia's blood ran cold. How did he find out? "I do not know, but it does not matter now. What matters is keeping you safe." Kyle moved to his desk and pulled out a map. "There's a passage beneath the keep that leads to the mountains. If Darius breaches our defenses, I want you to use it to escape. Go north to the free territories where no pack has dominion. You can disappear there." "No," Amelia said firmly. "I am not running." "Amelia." "No," she repeated, her voice stronger. "I am tired of running and hiding. I am tired of being powerless while others decide my fate. If Darius wants me, he will have to go through me." Kyle stared at her, conflict clear on his face. "You are powerful, but you are not trained for real combat. Darius is a veteran of 100 battles. His warriors are seasoned killers." "Then I will learn quickly." Amelia stepped closer to him. "You have been teaching me to fight. Now let me prove I was paying attention." "I cannot lose you," Kyle said, the words torn from him. "The bond is not complete, but you are still my mate. If Darius kills you, it will destroy me." Amelia felt something crack open in her chest. This was the first time Cale had openly admitted what the bond meant to him. The first time he had shown just how deeply he cared. "Then we fight together," she said softly. "We protect each other. Is that not what mates do?" Cale reached out and cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing across her cheek. "You are braver than any warrior I have ever known." "I am terrified," Amelia admitted, "but I am tired of letting fear control me." Cale leaned down and pressed his forehead against hers, a gesture of intimacy and trust among wolves. Amelia felt the bond flare between them, warm and reassuring. "Then we stand together, no matter what comes." The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. Cale's warriors fortified the keep, stockpiled weapons, and ran drills until they moved like a single deadly unit. Amelia trained with increased intensity, learning battle formations and combat strategies. Cale insisted she stay close to him at all times, where he could protect her if necessary. On the second night, scouts reported that Darius's force had been spotted at the forest edge, less than a mile from the keep. They would attack at dawn. Kyle called a war council in the great hall. His senior warriors gathered around the strategy table, while Amelia stood at his side, no longer pretending to be just a servant. Everyone knew now that she was important to the Alpha, though they did not know exactly why. "Darius has 200 warriors," Kyle said, pointing to positions on the map. "We have 150. We are outnumbered, but we have the advantage of defensive position. He will have to assault the keep, which puts him at a disadvantage." Captain Roth frowned. "If he is willing to violate our borders so openly, he must believe he can win. What does he know that we do not?" "He knows about the Moonblood," Cale said bluntly. "He knows we are harboring someone of immense value, and he wants to take her." Shocked murmurs spread through the gathered warriors. One of them, a woman named Elena, spoke up. "Who is she? Why would Darius risk war for one person?" Kyle glanced at Amelia, silently asking permission. She nodded. If they were going to fight for her, they deserved to know the truth. "The servant you have all seen working in this keep is not what she appears to be," Cale said clearly. "Her name is Amelia Thorne, and she is the last living Moonblood. Her power was sealed since childhood to protect her, but the seal has now broken. Darius wants to capture her and use her power for his own ambitions." The hall exploded with shocked exclamations. Warriors stared at Amelia with a mixture of awe and fear. Moonblood was legend. They had never expected to meet one in person. Kyle raised his hand for silence. "Amelia is under my protection. She is important to this pack for reasons I will explain later. For now, all you need to know is that we defend her with our lives. If Darius wants her, he will have to kill every single one of us first. Is that clear?" "Yes, Alpha." The response was immediate and unified. Kyle nodded, satisfied. "Prepare yourselves. Tomorrow, we fight." The warriors dispersed to ready themselves for battle. Amelia stood in the empty hall with Kyle, feeling the weight of what was coming. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I am sorry my presence has brought war to your home." Kyle turned to her with fierce intensity. "You have nothing to apologize for. Darius is the aggressor here. He chose to violate our borders. He chose to hunt you like an animal. Whatever happens tomorrow, the blame falls on him, not you. Your warriors could die protecting me. My warriors will die protecting their Alpha's mate," Cale corrected. "Because that is what you are, Amelia. Maybe the bond is not complete. Maybe you have not fully accepted it yet. But you are mine, and I am yours, and I will burn this world to ash before I let Darius take you." The raw possessiveness in his voice should have frightened Amelia. Instead, it made her feel safe, protected, valued in a way she had never experienced before. "I accept it," she said suddenly. "The bond. I accept it." Kyle went very still. "What? I have been fighting it for weeks, trying to decide if I could forgive you enough to let myself love you. But I realize now that forgiveness and love are not the same thing. I can still be angry about what you did to my family. I can still grieve for them, but I can also acknowledge that you are trying to be better, that you have shown me more kindness and respect in these few weeks than anyone else has shown me in 15 years, that the man standing in front of me is not the same man who gave that order so long ago." Tears shone in Kyle's eyes. "Amelia, I accept the bond," she repeated firmly. "Not because I have to, not because the goddess demands it, but because I choose you, because despite everything, I believe we can build something good together." Kyle closed the distance between them and pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. Amelia felt the bond snap fully into place, no longer damaged or incomplete. It flooded her with warmth and connection, and a sense of rightness that made her gasp. "I love you," Kyle whispered into her hair. "I know I have no right to. I know I do not deserve you, but I love you, and I will spend every day for the rest of my life trying to be worthy of this gift you have given me." "I love you too," Amelia said, the truth of it overwhelming. "I do not know how it happened. I do not know when I stopped hating you and started seeing you for who you really are. But I love you, and I am not going to let Darius or anyone else take that away from us." They stood there in the empty hall, holding each other. The bond between them finally complete and unbreakable. Tomorrow they would face a war. Tomorrow they might die. But tonight they had this moment of peace and love and acceptance, and that was enough. If you have come this far, if you have watched Amelia move from hatred to love, from brokenness to wholeness, then you understand the power of forgiveness and growth. Subscribe now, because only those who refuse to believe in redemption would walk away at this crucial moment. Only those who think some people cannot change would abandon Amelia and Cale before the final battle. Are you someone who celebrates love that overcomes impossible odds? Or do you believe the past should always define the future? This is your moment to choose, subscribe, and stand with those who fight for second chances. Dawn came too quickly. Amelia stood beside Cale on the walls of Blood Moon Keep, watching Alpha Darius's forces emerge from the forest. 200 warriors arranged in perfect formation, their armor gleaming in the early light. They looked unstoppable. Darius himself rode at the front on a white warhorse. He was a massive wolf, even larger than Kyle, with silver hair and eyes like ice. His reputation was legendary. He had conquered more territory than any other alpha in the last 50 years, and he was known for his complete lack of mercy. He stopped his horse just outside arrow range and called out, his voice magically amplified to reach the keep walls. "Alpha Kyle, I come for the moonblood you harbor. Give her to me, and I will withdraw peacefully. Refuse, and I will take this keep stone by stone and kill everyone inside." Kyle's hand found Amelia's and squeezed gently. Then he stepped forward and called back, his own voice carrying with alpha command. "The one you seek is under my protection. She is my mate, bound by the moon goddess herself. If you want her, you will have to kill me first." Darius laughed, the sound cold and cruel. "So be it. I warned you, Kyle. Remember that when your warriors lie dead at your feet." He raised his hand and his forces charged. The battle was chaos. Darius's warriors hit the keep walls like a wave, using siege ladders and ropes to scale the defenses. Kyle's warriors met them with arrows and steel, fighting desperately to hold their position. Amelia fought beside Kyle, her moonblood wolf tearing through enemy warriors with devastating efficiency. She was faster and stronger than anyone expected, and her presence on the walls rallied Kyle's warriors. They fought harder, knowing their alpha's mate was beside them, refusing to abandon them. But Darius's forces were relentless. They kept coming, wave after wave, overwhelming the defenders through sheer numbers. Warriors fell on both sides, their blood staining the stones. Amelia saw Darius cut through 3 of Cale's warriors like they were nothing. He was heading straight for them, his eyes locked on her with predatory focus. "He is mine," Cale growled, stepping forward to intercept. The two alphas clashed in the center of the battle, their wolves partially surfaced, their strength shaking the very walls. They fought with savage intensity, neither willing to give ground. But Darius was winning. He was older, more experienced, and driven by an ambition that made him absolutely ruthless. He landed a devastating blow that sent Cale crashing into the wall, blood streaming from his face. "No!" Amelia screamed. She threw herself at Darius, her wolf fully surfaced, her moonblood power blazing. She was magnificent and terrible, her white fur glowing with silver light, her strength beyond anything a normal wolf could achieve. Darius barely blocked her attack. His eyes widened with shock as he felt the full force of her power. "Impossible. You are untrained. You should not be this strong." "I am Moonblood," Amelia snarled, her voice resonating with otherworldly power. "And you made a fatal mistake coming here." She attacked again, faster than Darius could track. She got past his guard and sank her teeth into his shoulder, tearing deep. Darius howled in pain and threw her off, but the damage was done. He was bleeding heavily, his movements slowing. Kyle recovered and joined the fight. Together, he and Amelia pressed Darius back, their bond allowing them to move in perfect synchronization. They fought as one, anticipating each other's moves, covering each other's weaknesses. If you want the part 2, please like and subscribe. Thank you. It takes a whole lot of effort to create such wonderful stories for you all. Amelia would love for you all to subscribe if you are in her favor. And most of all, she felt Cale. The bond between them was no longer a faint pull or a quiet whisper. It was a living thing, bright and insistent, connecting them with a strength that felt unbreakable. Kyle's wolf pushed closer to the surface, drawn to her despite his obvious attempts to maintain control. "You need to shift back," he said, his voice strained. "If anyone senses this power, they will come investigate. You need to hide what you are." Amelia's wolf growled low in her throat. She did not want to hide. She had hidden her entire life. But her human mind understood the wisdom in his words. If the wrong wolves discovered she was Moonblood, she would become a target for every ambitious alpha in the realm. She focused on her human form, and the shift back was surprisingly smooth. Within moments, she stood naked in the center of the room, breathing hard, her body still humming with residual power. Cale immediately turned away and grabbed a blanket from his bed, tossing it to her without looking. Amelia wrapped it around herself, grateful for the coverage and the unexpected gesture of respect. "How long have you known?" Kyle asked, his back still turned. 2 weeks, since the night of my rejection. That was when my wolf first spoke to me and told me what I am." Cale turned back to face her, his expression complicated. "And you said nothing. Would you have believed me? Would anyone believe that a wolfless slave was actually Moonblood?" "No," Cale admitted, "but now I have seen it with my own eyes. Now I understand why your power was sealed. A Moonblood child would have been killed immediately if discovered. Your parents must have sealed you to keep you alive." Amelia felt tears burn in her eyes at the mention of her parents. "They died to protect me. They let themselves be labeled as traitors and executed rather than reveal what I was." Cale's face softened with genuine sympathy. "I am sorry. I know those words mean nothing, but I am truly sorry for the role I played in your suffering." "Sorry does not bring them back." "No, it does not." Cale moved to his desk and pulled out a clean shirt, handing it to her. "Put this on. We need to talk about what happens next." Amelia pulled the shirt over her head. It was far too large, hanging almost to her knees, but it covered her adequately. She sat on the edge of Kyle's bed, suddenly exhausted. The first shift had drained her more than she expected. Kyle remained standing, his posture tense. "Your power cannot be hidden much longer. Every wolf in this fortress felt the surge when you shifted. They do not know what it was yet, but they will ask questions. And if word spreads that a moon blood has awakened, every pack in the realm will come for you. So what do you suggest? We tell a partial truth. We say that you are a late bloomer, that your wolf awakened unexpectedly due to the stress of the rejection and relocation. We do not mention moonblood. We keep that secret between us for as long as possible." Amelia considered this. It was reasonable, though she hated the idea of continuing to hide. And what about the bond? What about the fact that we are second-chance mates? Cale's jaw tightened. "We do not announce that either. Not yet. You need time to adjust to your wolf. You need time to process everything that has happened. And He paused, struggling with words. "I need to prove myself to you before we make any permanent decisions about the bond." "You want to court me," Amelia said, the realization hitting her. "You want to earn my acceptance." "Yes." Cale met her eyes directly. "I know what I did to your family is unforgivable, but the bond is real, and my wolf will not let me ignore it, so I am asking for the chance to show you that I am more than the worst thing I have ever done. If, after you truly know me, you still want to reject the bond, I will accept your decision. But at least give me the opportunity to try." Amelia stared at him, her mind racing. This was not what she had expected. She had expected him to demand acceptance or to try to force the bond. She had not expected him to offer her a choice, to put the power in her hands. "Why?" she asked. "Why give me the choice? You are an alpha. You could command me to accept the bond." "I could," Cale agreed. "But what kind of bond would that create? One built on force and resentment? I have seen forced matings, Amelia. They are miserable for everyone involved. I want a true mate, a partner, someone who chooses me freely, not someone who submits out of fear or obligation." Something in Amelia's chest loosened slightly. "You are not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "A monster, a tyrant, the man from my nightmares who destroyed everything I loved without a second thought." Kyle flinched but did not look away. "I understand why you see me that way, but I hope, in time, you will see that people are more complicated than their worst actions." Before Amelia could respond, a sharp knock sounded at the door. Captain Roth's voice came through urgently. "Alpha, I apologize for the interruption, but something has happened. There was a massive power surge a few minutes ago. The entire pack felt it. Is everything all right?" Cale moved to the door and opened it slightly, blocking Roth's view into the room. "Everything is fine, Captain. The surge came from the servant girl I brought here earlier. Her wolf finally awakened. It was a late shift and apparently quite powerful." Roth's eyes widened. "The Shadowfang slave has a wolf?" "Yes." "Quite an impressive one, actually. It seems Alpha Garrett was wrong about her being wolfless." The stress of the rejection and relocation must have triggered her awakening. Should we inform the pack? Not yet. Let her adjust first. Spread the word among the senior warriors that her wolf has awakened, but emphasize that she is still learning control. I do not want anyone challenging her or causing problems while she is vulnerable. Roth nodded, clearly curious but too disciplined to ask more questions. Understood, Alpha? Should I arrange for training? I will handle her training personally. Kyle's tone made it clear the discussion was over. Return to your duties, Captain. Roth left, and Kyle closed the door. He turned back to Amelia with a wry smile. That will be all over the fortress by morning. The mysterious slave who was not actually wolfless, after all. Will there be consequences? Some curiosity and gossip, but nothing dangerous. My wolves are disciplined. They will not cause trouble without my permission. He moved to stand near her, though he maintained a respectful distance. You should rest now. Tomorrow we begin training your wolf properly. You have raw power, but you need to learn control and technique. Amelia stood, suddenly aware of how intimate the situation had become. She was standing in the Alpha's private chambers, wearing nothing but his shirt, discussing a mate bond that connected them, despite their complicated past. It felt surreal. Thank you, she said quietly, for defending me earlier, for giving me a choice about the bond, for not trying to control me. Kale's expression softened. I am trying to be better than the man who destroyed your village. I am trying to be worthy of a second chance, even though I probably do not deserve one. Amelia looked at him for a long moment, really seeing him for the first time. Not as the monster from her nightmares, but as a complicated person, carrying his own burdens and regrets. She could not forgive him yet. She was not sure she ever could. But maybe, just maybe, she could try to understand him. I will give you the chance to prove yourself, she said finally. Not because I forgive you, not because the bond demands it, but because I want to see if redemption is really possible. Something like hope flickered in Kale's eyes. That is all I can ask for. He walked her back to her quarters through the quiet fortress. They did not speak, but the bond hummed between them, content with their proximity. When they reached her door, Kyle paused. Tomorrow morning. Meet me in the private training yard behind the keep. We begin your education as a wolf. Amelia nodded and slipped into her room. She closed the door and leaned against it, her heart pounding. Everything had changed tonight. She was no longer wolfless, no longer powerless, no longer alone. And she was bound to a man who had destroyed her past, but might somehow be part of her future. Her wolf purred with satisfaction. He is worthy of us. Complicated, yes. Flawed, absolutely. But worthy. Give him the chance to prove it. Amelia closed her eyes and felt tears slip free. I do not know if I am strong enough to forgive him. You are strong enough for anything, her wolf said gently. You survived 18 years of suffering with nothing but silence and endurance. Now you have power and choice and a mate who actually respects you. What comes next is up to you. But remember this, forgiveness is not weakness. Sometimes it is the strongest thing a person can do. Amelia climbed into bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, her new life would truly begin. Tomorrow, she would start learning what it meant to be Moonblood, what it meant to have power, what it meant to be connected to someone through a bond that refused to break despite every logical reason it should. She did not know what the future held. But for the first time in her life, she had hope that it might be something other than endless pain, and that was enough for now. The next morning, Amelia met Kyle in the private training yard as instructed. It was a secluded space surrounded by high walls, hidden from the main fortress. Kyle was already there, dressed in simple training clothes, his expression serious. Shifting is natural for most wolves, he began without preamble. But you have 18 years of suppression to overcome. Your wolf is powerful, but you lack the instinctive control that comes from shifting since childhood. We need to build that control from the ground up. For the next several hours, Kale taught Amelia how to shift smoothly between forms, how to maintain her human consciousness while in wolf form, how to use her enhanced senses without becoming overwhelmed. He was patient and thorough, never mocking her mistakes, always offering constructive guidance. Your wolf is larger than normal, Kale observed, as Amelia shifted for the 10th time that morning. Even for a moonblood. That will make you intimidating in battle, but it also makes you a bigger target. You need to learn how to use your size as an advantage while protecting your vulnerable points. They sparred in wolf form, Kale teaching her basic fighting techniques. He was careful not to actually hurt her, but he did not hold back completely either. Every time Amelia made a mistake, she felt it. Again, Kale commanded, after pinning her for the 5th time. You are relying too much on raw strength. Use strategy. Use your speed. I am stronger than you, but you are faster. Make that work for you. Amelia growled in frustration but complied. She attacked again, this time feinting left before darting right. She managed to get past Kale's guard and land a solid hit on his shoulder. He grunted in approval. Better. Much better. Now do it again. They trained until Amelia was exhausted and covered in dirt and minor bruises. When Kyle finally called a halt, the sun was high in the sky and Amelia could barely stand. You did well, Kyle said, as they both shifted back to human form. He handed her a water skin, and she drank gratefully. Your instincts are good once you stop overthinking. In a few weeks, you will be formidable. Amelia wiped sweat from her face. You are a good teacher. I have been training warriors for 15 years. It would be embarrassing if I was not competent by now. He studied her with something like approval. You are stronger than you realize, Amelia. Not just your wolf, but you. You have survived things that would have broken most people. The unexpected compliment made Amelia's chest tighten. I did what I had to do to survive. Survival takes its own kind of strength. Kyle paused, then asked carefully, Will you tell me about them? Your parents? Amelia tensed. Why do you want to know? Because they were important to you. Because understanding them helps me understand you. Because I want to honor their memory properly. Amelia looked away, blinking back sudden tears. No one had ever asked about her parents before. No one had ever cared enough to want to know who they had been. My mother was a healer, she said quietly. She could cure almost any ailment with herbs and magic. People came from all over the region to see her. My father was a teacher. He educated the village children, taught them to read and write and think critically. She smiled despite her tears. They were kind, gentle. They made everyone around them feel safe and valued. They sound like remarkable people. They were. Amelia met Kyle's eyes. And they died because you believed lies about them. They died because you did not verify your intelligence before giving an order to destroy an entire village. Kyle's face tightened with pain, but he did not look away. Yes, they died because I failed them. I failed everyone in that village. and I have carried that failure every day since I learned the truth." "Does it hurt?" Amelia asked, her voice hard. "Does it keep you awake at night? Do you see their faces in your dreams?" "Yes," Kyle said simply. "I see all of them. Every person who died because of my mistake. I cannot bring them back, but I remember them. I honor them, and I have spent years trying to ensure I never make that kind of mistake again."